in '68. So we all got there and they had us skate and everything, so I really wanted to look my best. So I checked myself out, and that's when I saw this lump on my chest, because it was a shadow in the hotel room, and I thought I'd never seen that before, and I didn't have one on the right side, and I thought, I work out, I lift weights and things, and I thought, well, maybe I'm cheating, maybe I'm doing more on that side and not too much on the other side. And I kind of didn't think anything of it, because I just had a mammogram 5 months ago. I just had a checkup. It's probably nothing. So I let it go. I kept doing my work, and then even went on the following week to Italy and did the European Championships for ABC. But I was still aware that this is something that I probably should have checked out, because it was still there. So I made an appointment, and I thought, well, it's probably nothing, and it'll be a real quick visit to the doctors. And it ended up being a day of doctors. I went to my first doctor, and he said, I'm not too sure about it. I would feel more comfortable if you went to a breast surgeon. And he made an appointment, got on the phone, and within a half an hour, I went to another doctor. And an important thing is that, he sat me down, he said, Peggy, don't tell me where the lump is. Let me see if I can find it. And he examined me for about 5 minutes, and he said, I give up, I can't find it. And this is a real lesson for people of you go to your exam. Doctors aren't 100%. A mammogram is not 100%. You have to participate. You have to notice any change. And your participation in doing self-exam is so important. If I hadn't noticed that little change and have it looked at, it may have gone for, another year before I got another checkup. So that day of all the doctors, he ended up, I had to show him where it was. He sent me to get a needle biopsy, and by the end of the day, that was, questionable. And he said, to really feel sure, we really should go and take this lump out and really see what's going on. It's probably nothing. And I said, okay, what does that entail? He said, it's just real simple, be easy. I'll just go and make a small incision and take it out, and it's probably nothing. And I said, well, because I have a performance at the end of the week in Boston, am I going to be okay? And he said, yep, I'll just stitch you up a little tighter, and you can be on your way. And I thought, great. So I left the next morning to go to Boston, and I was a little bit sore, but I just sort of eased in on the training. We had a week of rehearsal. And I felt fine, and just a little bit sore, and I skated pretty well. But my husband kept in touch with the doctors in the lab, and he was the one that first found out that it was malignant. He didn't tell me over the phone. He didn't tell me till I got home. And the doctor said, he called me in, he said, well, we're going to have to go back in and take some more tissue out and take out some of your lymph nodes to see if it had traveled anywhere. And I said, okay. I ended up having a lumpectomy, and I think that was the hardest time during this whole cancer treatment for me, is waiting for those results of the lymph nodes, because if it was going to travel anywhere, that's usually the first place that it goes. And it was like our whole family held its breath, because we didn't know what the next step was going to be. But I was very lucky. It hadn't traveled anywhere, and so I would require 2 weeks of recovery